Keith Thurman versus Shawn Porter. The fight hasn't been announced yet. I'm slightly sceptical as to whether it will be announced, but I've had a number of messages from people wanting to hear my thoughts on the fight and how I see it going. And with these kind of occasions, I kind of take the viewpoint that even if the fight doesn't end up being made, it's still quite an interesting conversation. You know, I'm not one of these people who minds discussing fights speculatively and having a bit of back and forth as to who would win if the two did meet up. So I'm happy to discuss it anyway. Disclaimer is that it hasn't yet been made, but who knows? Maybe it will have been made by the time you're watching this. Let's talk about the two fighters first. They're both guys that I'm fans of, but they're both guys I have some slight reservation over. We'll start with Shawn Porter. Porter is a very entertaining fighter to watch. He comes forward like a bull. He's relentlessly aggressive. He overwhelms opponents. He's very, very physical. You know, he's got that American football background, and you can see that both in his physicality and in his body shape. Also in terms of his approach. You know, coming forward and wrestling with opponents. He's relentlessly fit. This guy is so fit. You know, the way he operates and the way he fights for 12 rounds is really impressive. He's a very, very big guy at the weight, at 147 pounds. I believe he's fought as high as super middleweight on the way up, and certainly in the amateurs. And if you factor in that he cut to 144 to fight Adrian Broner, this tells you something about this man's discipline and how he can conduct business. Porter, former world champion, he's got some real impressive form in his resume. He beat Devon Alexander handily. You know, Devon Alexander's gone downhill since then, but he beat Devon Alexander at a time where Devon Alexander would have been a big favourite. He stopped Paulie Malignaggi. He stopped him early. I can't remember the round, but it was certainly a lot earlier than Danny Garcia. Yeah, Malignaggi is usually a fairly durable opponent. He also quite comfortably beat Adrian Broner at 144 pounds, which represents some really, really good form. You know, Porter's athletic, he's aggressive, he's powerful, he's strong. In my opinion, he very, very definitely is a top 10 competitor in what is a loaded 147 pound division. And saying top 10 is maybe not doing him justice. At this stage, I probably wouldn't have him top 5, but I'd certainly have Porter 6th, 7th, 8th, you know, in that sort of area. He's a really, really good fighter. And if I was boxing at 147 pounds, he's just the kind of guy I wouldn't like to fight. He's got a bit of Marcus Maidana about him, the way he rushes you and the way he makes things so uncomfortable and how rough and tough he is. You know, he's a really, really solid operator. The big concern about Shawn Porter, and in mentioning this concern, I'm not expecting to say something that you guys haven't already thought of yourself and that isn't out there, but he can be outboxed. He's not a guy who has incredible versatility to his game in my eyes. He's not a guy who's going to stand at range and jab with you, then mix it up and ambush you, and then come on the inside and mix it up, and then go outside and throw some combinations, and then run around the ring for a bit. You know, Porter is what he is. He comes forward, he'll rush in, he'll push you back, he'll put you on your back foot, he'll throw a hell of a lot of punches, his activity will be very, very high, and he's going to try and wrestle with you and try and brawl with you. That's how I see it. A really sophisticated boxer can outbox him if they're able to keep it long. We saw Kell Brook outboxing him at times in their fight, keeping it long and stealing rounds off Shawn Porter. I think what Kell Brook brought to the table is, again, he's very big at the weight, he's a strong guy, he's a very, very physical, athletic specimen. You know, Kell Brook was able to outbox Shawn Porter. Perhaps Paulie Malignaggi would have been able to outbox Porter. Perhaps Adrian Broner would have been able to outbox Porter. But what they couldn't do is live with him on the inside. They couldn't live with his strength, whereas Kell Brook could. Kell Brook was able to hold him, to wrestle with him, to close him down. That's why this fight's intriguing, because like Kell Brook, Keith Thurman is also very, very big at 147 pounds. Like Kell Brook, Keith Thurman is also very athletic. And Keith Thurman can move as well. You know, can Keith Thurman outbox Shawn Porter using the blueprint that exists from the Kell Brook fight? It's possible he can. It's possible he can. And also, when they do have to get in close, is Keith Thurman strong enough and big enough at 147 pounds to hold Shawn Porter and to close him down on the inside? Possibly. that's where it's an intriguing fight. And that sort of question, in my opinion, will define who wins this fight. Keith Thurman, my concerns about Keith Thurman are that he's overly reliant on his power, and that now he's moved up in class, now he's fought the Leonard Bundos, the Luis Calazos of this world, etc. His power has been less relevant. We've seen the string of early knockouts cease. We've seen him having to go more and more rounds. And the fact that he's been so reliant on power means he's got a tendency to abandon his defences. You know, and some of you watching may say, what defences? Because quite literally, Keith Thurman is pretty open defensively. He's a poor defensive fighter who relies on aggression. Secondly, I also have a concern with how Keith Thurman's making the weight. He's looking more and more gaunt at weigh-ins. You know, I remember seeing him last time out and thinking that he looked like a bit of an alien, how much weight he drained from him. I didn't like that. Subsequently, he was hurt in the fight by Luis Calazo, and he could have been stopped if things had gone slightly differently. Luis Calazo is not a big puncher, and yet he put Keith Thurman in that much trouble. My worry is that he's cutting too much weight and it's draining him and it's affecting his punch resistance. And that could be telling against a guy like Shawn Porter. Because let me tell you this, if Luis Calazo is hurting you in a fight, Shawn Porter's got the ability to take you out in a fight. Especially when your defence is as open as Keith Thurman's. So I think that's another key point in this fight. You know, stylistically, Keith Thurman should be the favourite here. Keith Thurman can move. Keith Thurman can run. Keith Thurman can throw from range. And Keith Thurman can well outbox Shawn Porter. He really, really can. But Shawn Porter's a durable guy, and he's going to keep coming. And when he finally breaks down Keith Thurman, the key questions are, number one, will Thurman be able to close Porter down on the inside? That's an uncertainty. Number two, will Keith Thurman be able to live with the power of Shawn Porter? Again, that's an uncertainty based on the fact that he's cutting weight and based on the performance against Calazo. For me, those are probably the two key selling points in this fight. You know, I do think Keith Thurman has the style to beat Shawn Porter, and I would imagine he will be favourite for this. But in many ways, I'm inclined to pick Shawn Porter. Porter's a consistent fighter. He's fought at a much higher level, in my mind, than Keith Thurman. You know, he's fought Kell Brook. He's fought Devon Alexander. He's fought Adrian Broner. His resume reads better than Keith Thurman's. And in many ways, I think Keith Thurman's resume has kind of allowed him to get by on power alone. Allowed him to get by without a defence. And I don't think that's what you want to do against a guy like Shawn Porter. You know, Keith Thurman's a very eye-catching puncher. He's a very, very, very big power-punching guy. But you get to a certain level, and I don't see Thurman taking out Shawn Porter. I think Porter's very tough, very durable, and I think Porter's not going to be stopped. So you need more strings to your bow. And if you're not going to be able to close him down on the inside, if you're not going to be able to use your defence when he comes forward, you're in trouble. You're really in trouble. You need to be an exceptionally well-rounded fighter to deal with the challenges that Shawn Porter has. You need to be able to fight in your back foot. You need to be able to defend. You need to be able to move. You need to be able to be constantly active whilst on your bike from range. And you need to find some sort of power. Maybe not to knock him out, but stop him from just rushing in. You know, you need to have various elements to your game. And I'm not sure Keith Thurman's that dimensional. You know, he has got the tools in his makeup to beat Shawn Porter. I'm not sure the experience that he hasn't had in the ring is going to necessarily allow him to bring out those tools. And at this stage, obviously reserving the right to change my opinion before the fight, dependent on, you know, factors leading up to it, etc. I'd be inclined to go with Shawn Porter. I really would, for the reasons that I've mentioned. Betting wise, I imagine Thurman's a favourite, and I can see why. But I'd be inclined to go with Shawn Porter here. I think he can upset the apple cart. Let me know your thoughts on this fight. How do you see it going? Assuming it's made, who do you like in the fight, and how do you think it will break down stylistically? Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please give me the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching.